You're listening to the Cinemental Podcast.
Shall we begin?
And we're back. Okay,
Hello.
welcome. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Cinemental Podcast, where we discuss mental health in cinema and television and how it's portrayed. What did they get right? What did they get wrong? And what do you need to know about mental health? I'm Jeffrey Jones, and I'm a screenwriter as well as a professor of screenwriting. And I'm joined, as always, by my brother, a general and forensic psychiatrist, and a really good overall hang, Josh Jones.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about Saltburn.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. All right, folks, before we begin, look, to do these works justice and analyze the whole scope of the mental health issues portrayed, we have to talk about the whole movie. That means that this is a spoiler-filled podcast. If you want to be surprised, watch the movie before listening to us. Or don't. You know you. Do what makes sense for you. Also, the information
You're such a doctor when using 50 words when 2 would do. Just say spoiler alert next time. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Keep going. Do your magic. This is your moment.
Okay. Spoiler alert. Jeff's on a tear today. Okay. The information expressed in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing expressed in this podcast is medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is created. Or in Jeff speak, I'm not your guys' doctor.
There you go.
Now, but here's the really important part. If you or someone you know is suicidal or experiencing a severe mental health crisis, please call or text the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline number 988. All right, Jeff, let's go.
Yeah, okay. So, and as always, I just want to briefly mention our sponsor. We tend to have a different sponsor every time. Today's sponsor is Miracle Grow. From plants to ferns to grass, landscaping can be tricky. And when trying to fertilize your own lawn doesn't work, try Miracle Grow.
Because he has sex with the grave. Yeah. Well, Jeff, it just so happens we have an extra special second sponsor this week. Duraflame.
Oh, no.
Duraflame manufacture. Which, of course, I'm kidding. Don't use Duraflame to burn anybody's house right down.
There you go.
Great. Maybe the greatest ending scene in all of cinema.
When I came back from China, there was a station, this is back in the early aughts, there was one station that played the same 5 songs on repeat, and one of them was Murder on the Dance Floor, and it's like a 15-hour flight, and I listened to it every time it came on, and I set an alarm so that I wouldn't miss it. So I was so early on the train of Murder on the Dance Floor.
It's murder on the dance floor. But you better not steal the move.
And then now everybody's on that train. I'm like, I was the hipster of Sophie Ellis Bextor. Okay, so, but Josh, one of the things I want to talk about, and I would like us to do more often, is when things come up in the news, address them. And there was an issue that came up this week, and you actually brought it to my attention about a celebrity essentially getting bullied. And this celebrity was basically being told that they weren't beautiful enough, and they came out and said that they had an issue, like a physical
condition,
issue, a medical condition. And I just want to remind everyone that there are no victimless. There's no such thing as victimless bullying. Like, if you're bullying online, if you're saying negative things about a person, that's not victimless. It's not victimless to the celebrity. It's not victimless to the people who are reading it. Any kind of bullying, any sharing of negativity about a person, wherever you're doing it, is bullying. And I don't know. I was really upset when I saw that. I just wanted to quickly mention it.
Yeah, no, great point, Jeff. And I really felt ashamed to be a person when I saw that. And I think it plays into a lot of the decisions you make. The social media is still so very, very new in our human consciousness. I mean, we're putting ourselves out there. Surely someone is going to shit on this podcast.
100%. Of course they are.
It's gonna suck and it's gonna hurt because you
especially with you as an expert. There are going to be a lot of experts being like,
absolutely.
Well, I disagree, and this is actually
right.
By the way, we're also specifically not mentioning the celebrity because I don't want to bring attention to the bullying. I just wanted to make a note in general about bullying. which is, if you're talking negative about someone online, you're a piece of shit. No, I'm kidding. That would be technically bullying. Okay, let's move on to Saltburn. A lot of stuff to talk about.
Saltburn, boy,
very excited to talk about this one.
This movie's been big in the zeitgeist, I think, recently.
Yeah. So, Josh, start us off with the diagnosis. Give us the diagnosis of both Oliver Quick and of Felix.
All right, so Oliver Quick is, I think, the main diagnostic, not even conundrum. It's pretty obvious from a psychiatric perspective. Oliver Quick has antisocial personality disorder. He is a sociopath. He lies so much. He lies to himself. He has no problem infringing upon the rights of others. He's opportunistic, and he thinks of really no one but himself. And you see that expertly portrayed, expertly directed portrayal of antisocial personality disorder throughout the whole film. And as Jeff and I pre-gamed about this, really affects the narrative telling of the entire movie. Because he's a liar.
Yeah, and look, that diagnosis makes total sense to me. The theme of this movie is obsession. So talk a little bit about, and you know this from the opening scene where he says, was I in love with? I loved him, but was I in love with him? We know that this is a character who's obsessed about another character. We see his obsession. How does obsession and sociopathic or antisocial disorder go hand in hand? How is it different? Do you agree that this is about obsession? Talk to me about that.
I don't actually agree that it's about obsession with the Felix character. The Felix character was a means to his end. He's obsessed, I think, with power over others, exploiting others, as some folks with antisocial, or as is a hallmark characteristic of sociopathy. And I think that he actually lays it out there when he says, did I love him? Yeah. Was I in love with him? No. I'm not sure he knows what love is. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. I'm not sure he's capable of it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It's just the fact that it's singularly focused, to me, bridges it from being about power over people to wanting power over a specific person. When he gets power over
singularly focused. It wasn't singularly focused. He wanted power over Venetia. He wanted power over Farley.
But then he gave it up. But then he gave it up as soon as Felix didn't like it.
I think he was biding his time. Now, what I will say about the obsession part of it is that it comes down to this was all a long con to get Saltburn. And that's not really a hallmark of someone who honestly has antisocial personality disorder. It's much more common for those folks to be exploiters of opportunity. When the opportunity arises itself, you go get it. It's the very, very rare, criminal mastermind who's able to plot out something like that. But again,
let me ask you this then.
I don't believe him. I don't believe that that's how it all went down because he's such a liar.
Totally fair. Let me ask you about was your takeaway from this movie that his con the entire time was to get Saltburn?
I don't know. It kind of seemed like that at the end, but again, that could have morphed. I don't know that he really wanted to necessarily kill Felix either. He no, I don't think he did want to kill intoxicated. Felix. Yeah, I don't know, but he kind of justified it to himself in the end as, I won right. Saltburn.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it's so funny. I didn't love this movie the first time I saw it, which is a shame because I'm such a huge Emerald Fennell fan. Like I loved her as an actress in Call the Midwife. I loved the movie that she did right before this. I loved Killing Eve. She's a fantastic writer, and so when I first watched this, I didn't love it. but I think part of that got ruined by your daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I first learned about Saltburn, it was your daughter telling me about the dirty scenes. And I just
for
didn't
context,
like that.
my daughter is an adult. Let's put that out there.
Yeah, but I didn't want to give any details about your daughter.
Yeah,
but
but
she's
just
an adult.
just so people aren't picturing like some 7-year-old,
Like a 5-year-old. Yeah, totally.
going, Uncle Jeff, you should watch Saltburn. No, my daughter's an adult.
Yeah, she is. But it's still just like, it gave me the ick. And, she's a little bit obsessed with Jacob Elordi.
Well, who isn't? I mean,
Well, I don't disagree,
Yeah.
especially after this movie. Like,
Yeah,
he's
great
such
job.
a
Just
dick
great
in
job.
Euphoria, and he's so lovable in this. Anyway, so she had told me about it, and so I went in with a little bit of ick in advance. But then in rewatching it again, this is a really brilliant movie, and she did such a great job. Yeah, she did a fantastic. Anyway, one of the things she said is that he makes a change. So he does grow as a sociopath, whatever you want to call it, and has a new need, a new want, which is so rare to pull off in storytelling. Usually it's a character has one need, one want, they either get it in the end or they die. But in this, he does change, he does grow, which, Emerald allows for character development throughout the movie, which is so interesting and so well done. And I don't think I noticed it before, but the scene that she has with the Farley character.
This place, it's not for you. Because your summer's over. This isn't a dream to me. It's my house.
Where he's like, this is never going to be your house, this is my house. And he already knows he's lost Felix. And so now he's like, screw you, I'm going to take it all. That's to me, that's the moment where he decides that he's going to take Saltburn.
Yeah.
And we can get to this,
Good
or
point.
I can just add,
Good
I'm just
point.
going to ask you this now. He brings the bottle of cocaine champagne. Doesn't matter. We'll come up with a copain.
Yeah.
Brings the bottle of Coke champagne to Felix.
Sham Coke.
And Sham Coke, there you go. And he doesn't give it to him right away. He wants to talk to him. If Felix forgives him in that moment, does he still give him the bottle of champagne that kills him? Or does he take it away?
I think he still kills him. I think he still kills him because Felix still knows he's still
His secret?
he's the one who could expose him. He's not gonna, and Felix isn't all that trustworthy either. I mean, according to how Ollie tells the story, and Jeff, this is
Right.
where we got to get into. I think what is it?
Yeah,
One of
just
my
dig
favorite
in. You
things.
keep teasing at it. Let's do it.
I keep teasing it. Jeff, tell us about the unreliable narrator in fiction.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, one of my least favorite plot devices is the unreliable narrator, because when it's obvious that the narrator is unreliable, it works very well. When you have to
as in this
dissect
case.
it, well, I disagree with that, but let's just move
okay.
forward. We don't have to argue that. So I think it works really well when it's obvious. When it's an excuse for plot to not line up or for story not to line up, that's when I think that it's the fault of the writer to not deliver on that. But when it's obvious it's unreliable, then it works really well. But it's really interesting to see how people portray what they did versus what actually happened. And that's where an unreliable narrator becomes a really interesting device, is we see the truth and then we hear how someone believed it. And the difference in that is really interesting, and it's very human. That's why an unreliable narrator can be so interesting, is because we do tell ourselves these lies. So it's really useful in that regard. And so you obviously believe, and I agree with you, that Ollie was an unreliable narrator.
Absolutely. He's a sociopath. He lies to everybody, naturally lies to himself. Full disclosure, I did have some a heads up about this movie that he was a sociopath. And so as I started watching it from the beginning, I'm like, okay, if he's a sociopath, I even wrote this down. If Ollie's the narrator and Ollie's a sociopath, then the narration can't be trusted. And I think that is through the whole movie. And I think that's what really colors, or my view, or even gives grace to all the characters of the family, because these were all depictions of how Ollie saw them or how Ollie justified them. I mean, they were really kind of tropes of disenchanted, disenfranchised rich people.
I can wear my suit of armor, Elspeth.
Good idea, darling.
Which I thought, if this is seen through Ollie's eyes to justify why it's fine killing them and taking their stuff, then I would really like to see another view of who these characters really are, who these people really are.
Yeah, and this is another thing that Emerald does talk about in she really wanted to satirize the rich, and so I do think it makes a lot of sense that not a normal person, because obviously he's not normal. I got to stop using the word normal, but a person who is not filthy rich would see the rich, and so we are seeing it through honest eyes about how ridiculous a lot of us feel the rich are.
Right.
So I love that unreliable narrator, and allowing it to be the source of comedy for the film. Sort of, it does twofold. It takes some pressure off of the drama, but it also helps to empathize with Ollie a little bit, and what he's inevitably going to do to these poor people.
Right. Yeah, which I thought was a wonderful juxtaposition at some point in the movie when he first got to Saltburn and he was just tripping all over himself and screwing up, every little thing, not wearing the right thing, and Ollie did not know the rules that they were all playing by, but in reality, they didn't know the rules Ollie was playing by and to what lengths he was going to go. And I thought that was a wonderful juxtaposition.
Yeah, I really love the line at the end of, there are no natural predators for rich people. Well, maybe there's one. He's very proud. He's very proud of what he's done. I think we got way ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to Felix. I want to hear your thoughts on Felix, obviously, but let me just tell you, because I thought that this was, again, fascinating coming from Emerald herself, and I'm just going to read her quote. The thing about someone like Felix is he has no self-awareness. He's the only one not putting on a part because he doesn't have to. He's shallow, callous, misogynistic. He's not that clever, but he's also got that weaponized charm down to a T. He's so beautiful that you just don't care. I thought that was such an interesting way to break down that character. He's so cool, and he doesn't realize it, that he's not putting on any airs. He's just being himself because he doesn't have to play a part. And whether or not you bought that as on a diagnostic level, that was certainly the intention of the writer, and I think that she delivered on that. And Jacob Elordi played it to perfection.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, not everybody has a psychiatric diagnosis, and I would say Felix. I don't come up with one for Felix. He is, living his life as he's living it. He's actually very free to live how he wants to be. And she wrote it, so she's the expert on saying he's shallow, callous, and misogynistic, and not that clever. There's also kind. There's a lot of kindness.
Right. She does say that.
He does a lot of kind things, but people are somewhat. So you could say he definitely has some narcissism. What I say he has narcissistic personality disorder, not from the portrayal in the film. He's just. I actually really like this. He's just some bloke. That's just great. That's exactly what he was, and played masterfully.
And he's unaware of his privilege. He's unaware of how great he is. Have you ever met someone like that, by the way, that just commanded just instantly commanded a room, and you were like in awe. You were immediately in awe of that person. I probably can mention a handful of times, but I know what she's getting at with that character.
Yeah, not in the. Nothing comes to mind. Nothing comes to mind. If you were fishing for me to say you, Jeff Jones, I almost did.
No, I was not fishing. Let's talk about the thing that your very adult daughter brought up, which is the sexual deviancy of the film. Because obviously this is the water cooler talk. This is the first thing people are going to talk about. So let me ask you the question: when it comes to having sex with the grave, lambskin or latex, what's better?
The sex with the grave scene wasn't my favorite scene in cinema, but I definitely understood why it was there. Look, from a psychiatric perspective, from a mental health perspective, we really avoid words like deviancy. Folks who have issues, folks who have what we call paraphilias, or sexual issues. They need help, and they should feel free to seek help before they act on it. And when we talk about a paraphilia, in psychiatry, it's really got to be something that infringes upon the rights of others. So I actually thought a lot of the sexual behavior that was portrayed in this film didn't cross the line into what I would, what might be called, sexual deviancy, if you want to use that term, or paraphilia. A lot of the person-on-person sex here was consensual, right. and it was fine. And so I cringe a little bit that some of the the talk about this movie is all this stuff so naughty and randy and I don't want people to think if you and your partner want to have oral sex during menstruation and it's consensual, knock yourselves out. I mean, know the bloodborne pathogen status of your partners, or use protection. But I don't want people to, if they do that, I don't want them to look at this movie and go, "Oh my God, I'm a sexual deviant," because that's not.
How do you ask that question without the word pathogens? Are you basically just asking what diseases do you have?
Blood cooties is where
I think
blood cooties is a term. Now, the couple things that he did that was crossing the line, was slurping Felix's jizz-soaked bathwater without his permission, or that was quite voyeuristic. And then the having sex with the grave was also non-consensual. But again, I don't think a lot of this was because he has a paraphilia or a sexual condition. I think it's because he's a sociopath and he is using sex as power.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think you and I just really disagree on this one, because I really do think it is so much more about obsession. But that's totally fine.
Yeah, you seem quite obsessed with that point.
Yeah, well, I battle my own obsessive disorders.
We all do.
This is, again, getting back to something Emerald said. So I mentioned it as sexual deviancy, and you're right. That's not the right word. And that's not even the word that Emerald uses. She talks about it as transgressive desire, which I think is really interesting. And her quote about this is, "It was about introducing people, but particularly women, to this idea of the transgressive desire, and the things that maybe weren't within reason, they're outside of reason, they become completely all-consuming." And I thought that was really, really well said. Because, again, when I was first told about this, it was like, "Ooh, it's so icky, blah, blah." But yeah, the point wasn't to be icky. The point was to show the lengths at which he was either obsessed or wanted power over, this particular person. But I love that idea of transgressive desire, more so than sexual deviancy. But my question still, and
isn't
I
that
want a lot of this
Let me stop you there for just a second. Isn't that a Gothic theme?
It is, and a lot of this has.
Yeah.
A lot of this has Gothic themes, and she talks a lot about that. But I want this to be as helpful as it can be to the individuals. What do you start to look for outside of, because there has to be a line that's not just this is going to hurt someone. If someone came to you with some sort of transgressive desire or a sexual deviancy, at what point are you worried? Short of obviously harming somebody else, because there's some weird stuff people are into, man, and there's no way that it's just okay. There's got to be something going on there.
I don't know that I would agree. I mean, I think from a truly person-centered mental health perspective, what you want to do with your own body as a consenting adult, by yourself or with others, is kind of your business. Now, when we talk about any mental health condition and with the paraphilias, if it starts to become not okay with you, and yet you still feel like you have to do it, the obsessive part of it, if you will, that's an issue. So really, any mental health disorder, if you're going to use that word, and we do use that word, is when it starts to impair you in one or more spheres of functioning. And one of those spheres of functioning is your own self-satisfaction. If you feel that you have to masturbate 20 times a day and it's not pleasurable, it's because you feel like you have to or something bad's going to happen, that's an issue. That's an obsession. We can help with that. Does that make sense? I think that feels that's a great answer.
Yeah. That's a great answer, and that's that works. So if you're enjoying it and it's not infringing on someone else, Dr. Josh says go with God.
Yeah, knock yourself out.
That's great. Okay, that makes total sense to me, and I love that idea of if it's infringing on other parts of your life, if you're not getting satisfaction, then that's a very
if it's infringing upon the rights of others, either directly or indirectly. Especially. And I'm thinking about voyeurs, exhibitionists. I mean that's clearly if someone's compelled to do that and infringe upon the rights of others, that is clearly a disorder. And I want the other thing to know: there is help. Find a psychiatrist, find an expert in sexual behavior. And go talk about it. It's fine. I specialized in that for about 4 years when I was back east, and it can be. There are actual, honest to God treatments that help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about manipulation. That I don't even know that you call it a theme, but it was certainly front and center. His ability to manipulate. And this is where it breaks down ever so slightly for me from the storytelling standpoint. So he's a master manipulator. Would you agree with that?
He is. Yep, for sure.
Okay. He manipulates Rosamund Pike, after they had kicked the woman out of the house. There's a great scene where he's sitting with Rosamund Pike and he starts manipulating her. He manipulates the sister. He manipulates Farley later in the movie. When they have the why'd you betray me? Why'd you betray me? But he's terrible at manipulation at the beginning of the movie, and specifically the scene with the teacher. He's terrible at manipulating the teacher.
Is he?
When does he become? What does he get out of that? What did he get out of that other than meeting Farley for the first time?
I don't know. There was a little bit of not a throwaway scene. That's the wrong word. But there was a very quick glimpse of a scene during the montage where they quickly flashed back to the tutor, and Farley and the tutor were in this seconds on the screen. Farley and the tutor were in some animated, heated conversation. And he was sitting, and Ollie was sitting back on the couch, kind of watching it. And it was very, very quick. And I thought, okay, that's the payoff. There was some manipulation there. I didn't see it again, and I know I keep going back to this. This is all through Ollie's eyes.
Right.
I don't know what's true and what's not about that early manipulation. But I agree with you. At the very beginning, they set some things up that didn't quite fit with what a what a great, clever sociopath he was. One of the things they had right at the beginning, when he first laid eyes on Felix through the window, Felix locked eyes with him for a brief second, and then Ollie very self-consciously drew away from the window. That is not a sociopathic behavior. There's a lack of anxiety around.
So it's more of an obsessive behavior, you would call it.
I would not, because I'm not obsessed with making this movie about obsession.
So I wish I had thought about this ahead of just mentioning what I just said, but I totally just answered my own question in my head. Ollie gave the professor what he thought he wanted. He read all the books. He was trying to meet him on a level of a student, and the teacher didn't care about the students. He cared about just being cool. So the manipulation was, I did the reading list. I'm the perfect student. I'm this. And he fails at his manipulation that he becomes much better at it later on in the movie.
Yep.
Again, just little nuggets I'm picking up that Emeril really
this was a great movie. I mean, this was a great movie.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie where you can watch it 2 or 3 times and get something new every time you watch it. Did you buy this? You knew ahead of time sort of what the ending was, correct?
I did. I knew he was a sociopath. I knew he was, and I also, even though I didn't know this part, I figured that he was talking to one of the family members. I didn't know if it was the mom or the dad when he was narrating at the beginning. Yeah.
I
thought that whole thing was very interesting.
For the twist ending, the twist for me, especially just looking at it from a writer standpoint, the twist wasn't that he set all this up. I sort of knew he set all this up, and they give you a glimpse of that earlier when he's like, is this China from this particular dish maker? And then they cut to him so obviously he was a manipulator, all the things. But the twist for me that I thought was so good was I loved him. Was anyone in love with him? Yes, I loved him, but I also hated him.
Yeah.
I loved that moment. I loved that moment so much because I, as a person who believed that this was about obsession, I believe that is true about people who are either sociopaths or obsessed. I think that they love something so much to an unhealthy level where love and hate become intertwined.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, old tropes, old sayings have some truth, right? It's a thin line between love and hate. That's out there. And I think in obsession, Jeff, you really nailed it. I mean, you love something so much, you have to do it over and over again. Well, go back to the comment about if you have an obsession with masturbation. It feels really fantastic, but then after a while, because you're so obsessed with it, you really start to hate it. So it's a mixed feeling, and I think that's what you picked up on with his feelings toward Felix. Yeah, great point.
Look, and honestly, this might have
he was obsessed with him.
This might be apropos of nothing, but I certainly had that relationship with alcohol before I stopped drinking. I hated that I wanted to drink so much. Absolutely hated it. But I did, and I did. So, yeah, that's, I don't know if that's, obsession or if that's a different, or if alcoholism is sort of a different, psychopathy or whatever you want to call it. Whatever you would call it is what I meant to say.
It gets into it gets into, we'll get into that. We'll get into the dopamine pathways and reward pathways and things like that. But all those things that feel real good, including love, including sex, those are all linked into the dopamine reward pathway. So, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Good stuff. I mean that's it for me. All right, so give me a portrayal grade. What did you think?
Yeah, I actually thought that this was a fantastic portrayal of antisocial personality disorder, both in the writing and in the acting, and the fact that he was an unreliable narrator, just really cinched it for me. So I would give this 4 Minotaur statues.
I love it. Great. And yeah, and from a filmaic grade, I would grade this as a black coffee. Didn't like it first time I tried it, and now it's one of my favorite drinks. So yeah, this one gets a black coffee from me. Okay, so that was Saltburn. Next week, we're going to look at the holdovers, which I'm very excited about. We're going to talk about depression. We're going to talk about mental illness within the family, what sort of pressures that puts on families. So we're going to talk about that next week. As always, if you like this, please subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. We're also on YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe button, all the things you know what to do. And, leave a comment if there's a film you would like to see us cover. But with that, I'm Jeff Jones for Dr. Josh Jones. Have a great week.
Peace, everybody.
It's a murder on the dance floor, but you better not kill